My cousin accidentally answered the phone of my online love interest by mistake. Hello, baby? What the hell? Who are you having a baby with? My cousin has been working out for years. And his vocal cords are muscular. His thick voice shook the other side into silence. And he immediately hung up the phone. I thought he would break up with me. But at night, when I logged on to the game Trumpet, I saw him in the guild. Group and brothers chat records. Brothers. If your wife is a man, how to do? It's not me. It's my friend. And his voice sounds like he could punch my friend into the wall, and not even break it off. What if he treats my friend badly after we get married? Actually, my friend is not that rigid. What's the name of the novel with two male protagonists that you guys like to read? Where do you read it? Nothing else. I just think it's interesting and want to read it. The door opened. 7 or 8 delivery men stood at the door and looked at me. They all look at me with eyes that are obviously a bit off. Hello. Your takeaways have arrived. I was momentarily puzzled, and asked them to see if they had delivered the wrong one. A few takeout clerks looked at each other and checked the address. It was my house without a doubt. I took the takeout order out, and looked at it carefully. The name of the order was very familiar to me. It was the name that my online lover used to use when he ordered takeout for me. Just when I wanted to ask him why he ordered so much takeout for me, my eyes fell to the line of very conspicuous words on the takeout note. Add more rice. He's working out and eats a lot. Not good. A sense of foreboding welled up in my heart. The more I looked, the more wrong it became. I quickly ran into the guest room and shook my sleeping cousin awake. Get up. He was half asleep and looked at me with a blank face. I flung the takeout order in front of him. Sean. Did you mess with my phone? Shouting his full name did more good than a tub of cold water. He shuddered and immediately came to his senses. My cousin, who is a head taller than me and has a full body of tendons, thought for a moment, and then hemmed and hawed. It seems like it should probably be a catch. The guess was verified and my eyes went black. When was it? He thought back for a moment. Seems like it was yesterday. You went downstairs to throw out the garbage and left your cell phone at home. Someone called you over and I answered it. Then why didn't you tell me when I came back? The guy just said hello, and nothing else. So I didn't tell you because it shouldn't have been a big deal for you. I stared at him and didn't say anything. My cousin was furious at my stare, and finally surrendered in defeat to explain the truth to me. Well, I was sleeping when he called. I went back to sleep after hanging up and accidentally forgot about it when I woke up. In order to restore yesterday's situation, I called up the living room surveillance, which I haven't seen for a long time. In the picture, my cell phone was placed on the table in the living room. When it rang the first time, my cousin was indifferent. By the third time, my cousin came out of his room with an impatient look on his face and picked up the phone. Hello, baby? What the hell? Who are you having a baby with? Cousin had been working out for years and his vocal cords were muscular. Especially when he wasn't awake. Even though he didn't mean any harm. The words came out exactly like I'm going to chop you up soon. Wait for death. The thick voice shook the other side into silence. Then hung up. Cousin casually threw his cell phone on the table. And with a shake went back to his room to sleep. Seeing this scene, I nearly had a heart attack. Cousin moved into my house during this time. The landlord temporarily broke the contract with him to return the rent. And in the meantime he could not find a suitable place to stay. So he could only stay with me for a period of time. And the one who called me is the one I just fell in love with online. We did a couple's task together and got a prize that needed to be mailed. So I gave him my phone address. He would occasionally order me some takeout. But never called me. How could I not expect that? The first call would be received by my cousin. I opened the game and wanted to explain things to him. Only then did I realize that my trumpet had hung up last night to brush experience and hadn't to quit. My trumpet and he happened to be in the same labor union. As soon as I opened the game, the chat box in the labor union jumped out. Just happy to eat some peaches, brothers. What if your wife is a guy? Black-faced monster. You found out that Tina is a guy? Just be happy to eat some peaches. Not me. It's a friend of mine. White face. How did you? No. How did your friend find out? Just happy to eat some peaches. Just made a phone call and found out that the opposite side is a man. White face. Your friend didn't call before? Just be happy to eat some peaches. No. It's the first time. I just wanted to use my trumpet to explain that it's possible that my cousin answered by mistake. But someone beat me to it. White face. Then your friend's girlfriend will be here soon to explain it to your friend. He's going to say that some male relative in the family picked it up by accident. But what kind of coincidence is that? A male relative picking up the phone by mistake on the first call? It must have been an unfamiliar number that came in. And he was not on guard and forgot to put on the voice changer. If you don't believe me, ask the brothers in the group. I guarantee you there are a lot of people who have heard this explanation. I was silent. The group also fell into a weird silence. Black-faced monster, you wouldn't run into a pig-killing plate. Would you? I'd be happy to eat some peaches. No way. She's very nice to my friend. My friend tried to buy her an expensive gift and got scolded back. She's very nice to my friend. My friend tried to buy her an expensive gift and got scolded. Don't talk nonsense. Blackface. What if it's a long line to catch a big fish? Others in the group began to chime in. Roughly. They are saying that I am considered to have cheated on him no matter what. And that this kind of relationship with impure intentions is ultimately about cheating him out of more things. Most of the group was urging him to break up. So he stayed silent and didn't say anything. Until finally a different voice appeared. Red-faced monster, or let's just talk about it. With true love. Nothing is a problem. Just be happy to have some peaches. But his voice sounded like he could punch my friend into the wall to break it all up. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get a good deal on this. But I'm sure I'm going to be able to get a good deal on this. I'm not really that rigid. What's the name of the novel with two male protagonists that your boyfriend likes to read? Where do you read it? Nothing else. I just think it's interesting and want to read it. Red-faced monster. Internet loves Stormcloud's petite boyfriend, don't want to run. Just happy to have some peaches. Who's Zhao Zhaoi's boyfriend? Not yet. Don't talk nonsense. Red-faced monster. I mean that's what the name of the novel is. After reading the chat log, I had mixed feelings inside. But still decided to go and explain things to him. When I cut back to the big number, he was standing in the square. Not a single message was sent to me. I took the lead. I'm happy to eat some peaches, but some people. On the surface pretending to be cold. Behind the scenes in the Brotherhood group keyboard are going to knock fire. I want to explain to you that phone thing. Just happy to have some peaches. You want to say it was answered by one of your male relatives? My hand hanging over the input box stretched and retracted. And I said stiffly. Yes. It was my cousin who accidentally answered it by mistake. Meh. What does MEH mean? I took a deep breath and decided not to pursue the attitude thing with him for now. It's true. He just recently moved to my house to borrow a room for a while. And he accidentally picked it up by mistake. Just happy to have some peaches. Then why didn't you tell me right away after you learned of the misconnection? He didn't tell me. And I didn't realize something was wrong until you ordered me takeout today. If you don't believe me, the two of us can call right now to confirm. Just be happy to have some peaches. I see. You didn't come to explain to me until now because you had to take the time to find a girl who could call me instead of you. Right? My fists hard and slightly. Just be happy to eat some peaches. It's okay. You don't have to find a way to remedy the situation. I'm already convincing myself. Myself already. What exactly are you convincing yourself of? He still continued to output himself. I think my friends are right. As long as there is love, nothing is a problem. So, can you be honest with me? I'm honest. It was really a misunderstanding. Just happy to have some peaches. Naughty. Still lying. I was momentarily speechless. Zoe, who was in the same group as me, sounded anxious. As I was planning to make one last effort to explain, a call came from the company. He said that Leo didn't know what was wrong with him, and that the deadline for the proposal was still a week away, but he was pushing for it to be ready at the meeting tomorrow. I've always done my work early. He couldn't finish it and had no choice but to call me for help. You don't even know how angry Leo was when he called me. He said, I guess he was dumped by his girlfriend. He said, TT, you come to make things difficult for us laborers when you fall out of love. I curse his girlfriend to never get along with him again. I followed his words and spat a few words. But what the hitman spat was spat. What the boss says is still a holy decree in the next second. If you don't listen, you won't get fed. In order to help my co-workers keep their jobs, I had to put aside the matter of resolving the misunderstanding. The next day at the meeting, Zoe and I were not the only ones with two big black circles under our eyes. There was also our boss. Leo. It was as if he had taken to cannonballs for breakfast and vetoed several people in a row. Even I couldn't help but feel a little alarmed. When it was finally my turn, he grimaced and didn't pick out any mistakes. Looked at my eyes, slightly soft and a few points. You don't have much of a problem. But don't use that Tina for your WeChat avatar in the future. I recently don't like Tina. I was silent and looked at Zoe with a glance, each understanding. It's true that I've been dumped. Although Leo's temper is a bit strange, he's quite reliable when it comes to business. My business plan was approved, and the project team is going to start implementing it. The previous team leader's position was transferred, so I became the interim team leader. As soon as the project was completed, I had a good chance of being able to transfer to a new position. On the first day of the project, I worked an extra shift at the company. It was already 8 o'clock in the evening when the work was finished. Only my office and Leo's office were lit up on the whole office floor. Out of politeness, I still want to go and say hello before I leave. The door knocked and pushed open. Leo has a pair of rimless glasses on the bridge of his nose. His eyes are serious and cold as he stares at the documents. And even though he is busy until now, the suit on his body is also meticulous. I have to admit, when he doesn't speak, he is still very pleasing to the eye. Leo, I'm off duty first. He didn't look up, just answered softly. I turned to leave. Your name is Tina, right? I paused in my tracks and turned my head a little unsure of what to do and said yes. He removed his glasses and pinched his brows staring at me. I have something I want to ask you. Go ahead. What does he like about that Zoe? In your group? I was struck by lightning. And I was struck by the words. What? Leo, do you have eyes for Zoe? Leo huffed, all of a sudden red from his neck to his ears. Nonsense, what? I mean, what does a guy like Zoe like? I chewed on that multiple times, finally figuring it out and letting out a long "oh." Sat under Leo's expectant gaze. I don't get it. Leo, you might as well show me. I saw him almost break the pen he was holding in his hand, gritting his teeth and saying to me, I see that Zoe is on good terms with all the girls in your group. And he doesn't have a girlfriend. So I want to ask which type of mano like Zoe generally likes. This time I really understand. Leo's girlfriend is actually a boyfriend. I seriously thought about it. Leo, it doesn't really matter which type. I think the important thing is that you have to show your sincerity and affection. Leo followed my words and thought seriously for a moment. I used his name as a game nickname. Does that count as externalization? I nodded. Of course it counts. It would be nice if you could externalize your avatar as well. I pulled my phone out and tapped on his WeChat pitch black avatar. Leo, look at the blackness of your avatar. If you have the same kind of avatar in the game as you do on WeChat, it's not easy to get along with. If you can change your avatar to something related to him, it might make him feel good. Leo nodded his head as if he didn't understand. In the next second, he took out his cell phone to create an avatar image in a hurry. It's done. You can help me see how to change it. I went over to take a look, only to see white letters on a black background. Two plain English letters PK. I did a double take. Leo. You are in love. Not gaming. What does it mean to use a PK as a header? Leo, a very proud look. I thought about it and still can't use it to obviously. Otherwise it will look like I'm losing value. This PK is good. His name is Tina like yours. Tina is pink. And the English word for pink is PINK. So I took the first and last two letters as the avatar. As my avatar. How about that? Is it revealing and subtle at the same time? I'm sure he'll pick up on this little ingenuity of mine. One of the rules of survival in the workplace. When you realize that your boss is really retarded in some way, don't retort. Go along with what he says. I stuck out my thumbs with difficulty. Wow. Leo's ingenious. I'm sure that Tina will love it when she sees it. No way. I don't know which Tina is so unlucky. Leo was so pleased with himself that he couldn't hide the smile at the corner of his mouth. While he was in a good mood, I immediately found an excuse to leave. Returned home and took a hot shower. I just remembered in 1,000 thoughts that I still have to clear up the misunderstanding with my online dating partner. I boarded the game with an apology for yesterday's sudden disappearance. I saw that I'd be happy to eat some peaches. Avatar had suddenly changed into two large letters PK. PK. The next day when I arrived at work with dark circles under my eyes that were deeper than the day before, Zoe came to my side with a cup of nourishing red date tea. Tina, the smell of your class is almost overpowered by the smell of your corpse. I smiled miserably. You look like a corpse just like me if you found out that your online love interest was your top man and he seemed to be on the verge of being broken up by an inexplicable misunderstanding that you still couldn't explain. Things are at a standstill now. If I explained it thoroughly, he would have continued the relationship with me anyway, given his character. But I can't fall in love with my boss in the company without changing my face. In an office relationship, the person who gets hurt is the person in the lower position as well as the woman. It is my principle not to fall in love with someone from the same company. But if I just let the misunderstanding arise and stop explaining to him, then Leo will keep making efforts to break himself. In the end, if he realizes that I'm the one who made him fall deeper into the misunderstanding, I'm only afraid that I'll die an even worse death. Thinking of this, I was so lifeless that I even made plans to jump ship once I finished this project. Because right now it seems that the only way to keep things balanced and jump ship right away under these circumstances is to be on the up and up. But some bosses are like chewing gum. Once it sticks, it's hard to clean it off. Maybe Leo found my comments constructive. He calls me over to give him ideas on the pretext of discussing the progress of the project every 3 days. This man is skilled in the mall and is capable of killing it. But when it comes to relationships, he's just an elementary school student at best. No matter how outrageous my ideas are, he dares to listen to them. And he dares to use them. I have to prepare for a complicated project. At the same time, I also have to deal with him as an invisible party. I was exhausted. I couldn't hold back any longer when he called me into his office for another idea. Leo, have you ever thought that after all you've done he has no intention of coming around? That means our approach is fundamentally wrong? Leo's expression froze. What does that mean? It means we're talking too much and they're talking too little. In a relationship, the more you talk, the less you get to say. So why don't we give it a rest? If you don't take a break, I'm going to delete all your contact information in one go. I smiled and criticized. Leo looked like he was seriously considering it for a while. But in reality, he doesn't have any opinion on this kind of issue. He just listens to me. Okay. I'll leave him for half a day. Thank you, Lord. I walked out of the office as if my heart was dead. However, I found that the other colleagues looked at me in a somewhat strange way. This strange look followed me all the way back to my workstation. As soon as I sat down, Zoe came over mysteriously. Tina, we are so close. You can't hide something from me, right? I was confused. What is it? Zoe's eyes shifted between Leo's office and mine. They've been saying lately that you and Leo are having an affair. Especially Paige. She said she heard you and Leo talking in the office about something other than projects and relationships and stuff. She also said that it wasn't because of your ability that you became team leader. It was because you went through Leo's back door and used dirty tricks. I looked up toward Paige's position. The lines of sight collided. And Paige immediately lowered her head and stopped looking my way. Paige was brought up by the original team leader from when she was an intern. The two of them were very close. And at first everyone thought that if the former team leader wasn't there, my position would definitely be hers. But to their surprise, Leo gave the position to me. As the source of the rumors, she knew best how wronged I was. I understand that she desperately wants the opportunity, and is very reluctant to work under my hand. So I welcome her to compete with me by any legitimate means. Whether it's creativity or leadership ability. As long as she can outperform me, I'll give her the position with both hands. But she shouldn't have known how much an erotic rumor could hurt women in the workplace. But she shouldn't have chosen to stab me with this unfounded blade even though she knew how much damage an erotic rumor could do to women in the workplace. From a woman's standpoint, she should know best. This sword stabbed at me by her may one day be stabbed at her by someone else. No one would be the beneficiary in the end. I walked over and knocked on her desk. Talk. Paige either didn't expect me to go straight to her like this and panicked a little. There's nothing to talk about with you. Not to be annoyed. I leaned over her desk with my arms wrapped around her and pulled up the volume. I hear you've been gossiping about me lately. Office gossip. Everyone loves to hear. Although the co-workers didn't blatantly look our way, their hand movements all stopped in unison. Since you dared to do it yourself, don't blame mothers for saying it. I nodded. According to this logic of yours, a slap in the face is not enough. Why don't you spread gossip about Leo? Saying that he's misbehaving in his private life with his subordinates? Because you don't dare and you don't have proof. So you can only catch rumors to influence me. Paige, you're also a woman. Aren't you afraid that one day someone will treat you the same way? Why are you in such a hurry to harbor deep malice towards me? You think that if you squeeze me out with these unfounded rumors, the position will be yours. But unfortunately you are wrong. You're even so unoriginal and uncouth in your rumor mongering. I think that even if I wasn't in this company or at the same time as you, this position wouldn't be yours to sit in as usual. Paige looked at me with a bit of annoyance in her eyes. She immediately stood up and argued with me. You're blurring the point. And you're making it up as you go along. She said. If I don't have the skills. Do you? Others don't know that you copied your project proposal. But I do. This is clearly the result of Bella's departure. This was clearly done before Bella left. And you secretly took it, and used it. Plagiarism. Backdoor. The two major black pots in the workplace. Both of which she has put on my back. I was furious and amused. Where did you hear this nonsense? Paige said with an air of determination. Of course Bella told me herself. She still has the first draft of the project proposal. The first draft. I remembered. When Bella hadn't left yet, I had given her the first draft of the project proposal to review. There's a trace of it on her end. Of course. It seems that Paige found her when she was at the end of her rope, and wanted to perjure herself to bring me down first. That way, even if the investigation reveals that I'm innocent, it gives Paige time to fight for the position again. Paige, you want to kill me with empty promises. No way. If you have evidence, show it. If you don't have evidence and only have a verbal word, shut your mouth. I'm your leader now. Paige grunted and laughed. I've already reported the evidence to the company's monitoring department. I'll see how long you can be proud of yourself. Are you talking about this document? Paige and I argued. Leo walked out with a folder in his hand. He absently lifted it and glanced at it before closing it in disgust. If you're talking about this uninformed, flawed whistleblower document, then I'm sorry. The file was intercepted when it reached me. Paige's face hardened. Leo, this is not in line with the regulations. Is it? The company stipulates that all whistleblower documents can be approved at a higher level. So if you casually intercepted mine, aren't you afraid that it will confirm your improper relationship with Tina? Leo lightly glanced at her, and directly threw the document into the shredder under the gaze of the crowd. If this document is justified, I absolutely will not stop. But you just want to borrow the hands of the investigation team to drag Tina, so as to give yourself a chance to get to the top. This intention is simply obvious. Now the project is the key time. I will not let it even rumor mongering is very level of people on the throne to work for me. Tina got to this position because of her ability. And you can't because of your character. It's because your character is even worse than your already stretched abilities. Paige was thin-skinned and was so unmercifully poked and prodded by Leo in public that she actually gave way to tears. He ignored Paige's tears and swept his gaze around the room. I've always been fair and impartial in the workplace. Everything is based on ability. With that, Leo turned around and was about to leave. Not knowing what he remembered, he suddenly paused and turned back to add, "By the way, I have someone I like. It's not Tina. And she's not in our company. So don't spread those rumors to me." I was surprised that Leo would help me out. But I was even more surprised that he would come to the rooftop to steal a drink. As the project was coming to an end, after working overtime until 10 o'clock again, I walked to the rooftop of the company with the beer I bought from the convenience store. There are few people here. And at night, blowing the wind and drinking to see the night view of the city. Don't mention how relaxing it is. Only today, before I came, someone had already taken my usual seat. Leo sat there alone, staring down at the very shaky cell phone screen. Every time it dimmed a little, it had to be bright and immediately, as if he was afraid of missing any news. I hesitated for a moment, but still carried my drink and sat next to him. "Leo, Paige's matter. Thank you. Although this matter is something I can completely cope with, it is inevitable that I have to waste a lot more effort. With Leo's help, I can prepare for the new project without any distractions." He didn't even bother to look up at me. "It's a favor, and like I said, I just don't want to delay the project. No. I'm thanking you for being willing to trust me." The reason Paige was so confident in reporting me was because she knew that when it came to something like this, most of her direct reports would choose to hedge their bets. Even if her evidence had a lot of holes in it, the leaders involved would still choose to file whistleblower documents in order to avoid the risk. Those who were as completely trusting as Leo and weren't afraid to take responsibility afterward were rare. Didn't you tell me that? No matter what the relationship is, it should be built on trust. Leo's tone was light, but it was like £1,000,000 hitting my heart. I froze, remembering something I had blurted out earlier when he had come to me for ideas. I told him that maybe it was because he gave too little credit that his date wouldn't pay attention to him. What was said was not meant to be heard. Leo looked at his cell phone screen with some distress. "I think you're right. It should be that I gave him too little trust. In fact, I should believe what he said. Relationships are not business. There is not so much deceit to guess around. Perhaps the simplest answer is the most correct answer. So I'm wondering if he really didn't lie to me. I've worked with Leo for a long time. He is confident and arrogant. He doesn't change what he believes in easily. This absurd misunderstanding between him and me also hides a crisis of trust. But when a man is willing to re-examine and change himself for the sake of his loved ones, he deserves a chance to be brave for it. I've already contacted the headhunter for the company I'm jumping to. As soon as the project is wrapped up, I can leave. So I was ready to have a showdown and start over with him after I left the company. With the strength of my drink, I patted his shoulder. "If you really think so, she will come back to you sooner or later." Leo stiffened. His eyes finally moved from the screen to my face. He looked at me with a very complicated look, wanting to say something. In the next second, he moved his butt and pulled away from me. "Don't touch me. I'm seeing someone. Keep your distance from me. Okay?" Leo and I talked for a long time across a galaxy of distance. We had almost finished our drinks before we went downstairs to leave. When I got to the door of the company to take a taxi, I realized in hindsight that I had left my cell phone on the rooftop and forgot to bring it down. Thinking of the game on my phone that I hadn't quit yet, a chill ran down my back. Oh no. I quickly turned my head back to the office and kept praying that Leo wasn't interested in my phone. When I arrived at the rooftop in a hurry, Leo still had his back to me. The light on the rooftop was so dim that I couldn't read his expression. "You forgot your cell phone." His tone of voice was calm, which relieved me slightly. I pretended to be relaxed. "Yeah. I'm sure I can't drink too much. You have my cell phone, right?" Leo stood up and reached over, handing me his cell phone. I said thanks and reached for it, but his fingers clutched the phone so tightly that I couldn't even pull it out. I was puzzled. The cell phone screen lit up. 2 messages stood out in the dark night. One was a notification from a headhunter about an interview time, and the other, a message reminder of just happy to have some peaches. And the other, a message alert of just happy to have some peaches. I followed Leo's hand and looked upwards. The face was clearly visible, terribly somber, with black hole-like eyes that almost swallowed me up. I didn't know where to explain, so I could only freeze in place. He stared at me, but loosened his grip. "Tina, are you playing the long game?" I didn't answer any of his questions that night. Many times the butterfly effect occurs silently, and the moment the wings vibrate, we all think it's just a small hiccup that's not worth mentioning. It developed from a small misunderstanding in the beginning. Even I don't know how to end it. Leo has a clear distinction between public and private. In the matter of the project is never sorry for me. Just no longer under the pretext of the project to pull me to the office to give him ideas. Since that day, he did not send me messages in the game. We do not know each other, and no one took the initiative to mention it again. After the project was completely landed and finished, I took half a day to go to the agreed next house for an interview. The resume and terms had been pretty much negotiated back when the headhunter was matched with HR. I just need to go to the company to go through the interview process again to basically finalize. HR was very happy with me and offered me a much more substantial offer and position than I had before. A blessing and a curse. Maybe the recent events have pushed me to another stage in my life. It was drizzling outside at the end of the interview. The bright sunshine on the way in made me forget to go out with an umbrella. I stood by the glass door of the company's downstairs to hide from the rain and waited for the internet taxi driver to bring his car around. A black sedan stopped not far from me. I checked the license plate and it wasn't the one I'd made the appointment with. But the car wasn't about to leave. Instead, it honked its horn a few times to get my attention again. I looked up. The window came down and Leo's face came into view. He stared at me without looking away. His tone hard. "Get in the car. I'll give you a ride." I waved my hand in refusal. "No, Leo. I already took a cab. It's still raining and my internet car is stuck in traffic." I tapped the back of my hand with some anxiety, hoping beyond hope that the car would fly up to me to ease the awkwardness of the moment. Leo slowly raised the window, and just when I thought he was leaving, he opened the door and stepped out, holding an umbrella. He lifted the curtain of rain and took a step in front of me. The umbrella wasn't very big and he tilted it towards me to make sure he could cover me under it. "Cancel the internet ride and come with me." The awkward atmosphere that comes with enclosed spaces multiplies geometrically. Leo's car was cooled, but I was too hot to move. From the first second I sat up, I began to regret. Why did I follow him into the car? "Why did you quit?" Leo's voice sounded almost at the same time as the rhetorical question in my head. Before I could answer, Leo followed up with another question. "Is it because you don't want to see me?" I shook my head. "No, it's because I've been thinking about it for a long time. The pay and the prospects here are better than now." Leo was silent. Maybe he wanted to hear my answer because it was about him. Unfortunately, it wasn't. Relationships don't play such a big part in my life. If the offer from the next person is not even as good as it is now, even if I have to meet with Leo every day in such an awkward manner, I definitely won't quit my job now. After a long time, Leo asked again. When did you realize that I was just happy to eat some peaches? I realized it the day you changed your avatar. As soon as the words came out of my mouth, I couldn't help but add. That's why I didn't think about catching a big fish with a long line. Leo didn't comment, but didn't say anything else. The awkward atmosphere that had re-emerged made me want to smack myself in the mouth. Why did I mention this sentence properly? Isn't it a lie? It would be strange if you believed me. I regretted it. But Leo seemed to be in a much better mood. He even turned on the car stereo. The song was the background sound of the game we both played together. A familiar music gradually relaxed me. I turned my head to look at the person I was once both close to and a stranger to. Once upon a time, we played games and did quests together. And when we were tired of playing, we would click on the same movie and often fall asleep while watching it. Every time I woke up, Leo would still be online, and would only be relieved when he saw me appear. Because of this, he would also complain with me to scold the immediate leader who let me have so much workload. He said that our leader must be blind, and that if he didn't give me a promotion and a raise, he wouldn't be able to keep a talent like me. I couldn't hold back a soft laugh at the thought. When I looked up again, the car had already driven to the downstairs of my neighborhood. I woke up with a start and fumbled to unbuckle my seatbelt. Thanks for the ride. Bye. Wait. Leo's hands were clenched on the steering wheel in a nervous manner. He took a deep breath and turned his head to look at me. Even if you didn't have the idea of putting in a long line to catch a big fish. But now that the fish has hooked itself, can't you be merciful and take it back home? I stared at him blankly, my hand on the card or not knowing whether to move in or out. He simply unbuckled his seatbelt and came up to me, infinitely closing the distance between us. When the distance was 0, my brain was dizzy and my hand subconsciously clutched his shirt. The corners of that shirt crumpled as I clutched them before Leo managed to get up. His eyes glued together and his voice sounding even lower than usual. This isn't how it's supposed to end between us. I want a future with you. I was in a state of confusion, my head so full of mush that I didn't know how to respond to him. I could only turn my head away from his blazing eyes. Tina, let's talk about it. This time I believe everything you say. Leo's almost pleading tone was too much for me to ignore. I forced myself to calm down and think for a moment, but nodded my head in agreement. I started the story from the day my cousin had answered the phone by mistake. Leo listened quietly, hearing about all the detours we'd somehow taken because of misunderstandings and mistrust. In fact, there was no bottomless barrier between us, just lack of a sincere conversation that can melt the ice and snow. Leo held my hand tighter until I finished the whole thing. I breathed a long sigh of relief, and the things that had been bothering me finally fell into place. I told him about my avoidance and the deepest part of my heart that I also distrusted him. And then I put the decision in his hands. Leo laughed out loud at my somewhat apprehensive appearance. He caressed my face. I just want to know what's been going on with us all this time. And I just want to clear up any misunderstandings with you. We've just had some problems that could have been avoided. It's not like we don't love each other anymore. Right? The rain stopped outside the car and the temperature in the car climbed up. We explained all the misunderstandings. I didn't leave Leo's car until late. In the last half month of my handover, Leo would come downstairs in the neighborhood every day to wait for me to go to work with him. According to him, he wanted to seize this last half month to be my colleague. I clearly told him that my bottom line is that I can't be in a relationship with someone from the same company, and he was going to grab me to get a license the next second. I only said I can't fall in love. I didn't say I can't get married. I take him nothing to do, but also had to acquiesce in his transportation me to and from work behavior. But the condition is that I am in the work period. Cannot be with other colleagues to publicize our relationship. On the day I officially left my job, Zoe quietly came to gossip with me. Tina, did you mess with Leo in any way? Why is he so happy that you're leaving today? I looked at the office full of spring, and even treated subordinates or a lot of good Leo. Angry and funny. Who knows? Isn't he always gloomy? I'm leaving. You guys have to be careful of him. Zoe pulled my hand with a look of reluctance. If you leave, you're killing me. Aren't you? Who's going to help me revise my project proposal, and who's going to protect me? Leo, who was in the office, threw a glare at me, scaring Zoe, who immediately let go of my hand and went back to her own workstation. I packed up my things and turned in my license plate. That meant I was officially leaving the company. While holding the cardboard box and walking outside the company, Leo ran in front of me at some point. He was leaning against the front of the car with his arms in front of him and wearing sunglasses. He looked like a male peacock in full bloom. It was the end of the day, and there were a lot of people staring at me as I came and went. I am too ashamed. Want to quietly leave. Leo quickly rushed up and pulled me back. He took off his sunglasses and his smile reached the bottom of his eyes. Where are you going? Girlfriend. Your boyfriend's car is over here. I couldn't argue with him. So I smiled and pushed the carton into his arms. Let's go. Boyfriend. Let's go home for dinner. Yes. Leo smiled and jogged after me. The afternoon sunset was just right. The afterglow fell on his shoulders. He stood by my side, unwavering.